Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into Loyal Media Sports Podcast. I am Richie, joined by my co-host Ali. In this week's episode, we got a special guest, Jack. If you guys
What's
tune
going
into
on?
my YouTube channel, NY Jets Media, you guys know Jack. He's always on my channel. Thanks for joining in, Jack.
Thank you guys for having me. Very
Of
excited.
course. So today we're going to talk about the game that just wrapped up yesterday. The Chiefs just absolutely demolishing the New York Jets at a final score of 35-9. After the game, we find out that Avery Williamson will be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a fifth-round pick. We gave up a seventh-round pick in 2022, and the trade deadline is upon us. There's probably going to be a lot of trades that happen following this podcast that we'll probably be talking about. So as of right now, the only move that Joe Douglas has made is Avery Williamson, Steve McClendon, and Jordan Willis. So we'll be getting into all of that and the game. So to start off, Ali, what are your first impressions of this game on yesterday? Obviously, we expected the worst. We expected the Chiefs to go out there and obliterate us. But what's your biggest takeaways from the game?
I mean, we're halfway towards 0-16, man. And we're almost there. We're almost to 0-16, and probably one of the worst teams in NFL history. You look at the other 0-16 teams, and they at least played closer games when they fell to 0-16. The Jets have not been close in literally any game this season, besides maybe the Bills. But it's just been awful to see. And yesterday was just another game that the Jets just completely didn't know how to play football again, because Patrick Mahomes made it look easy, man. He found Tyreek Hill for an easy end zone touchdown, man. These guys are just running routes, and no defender was on him the entire game. No Tyreek Hill on Travis Kelce was just destroying us the entire game. And, it's just like, it's very frustrating to see Denzel Mims, man, getting only one target in the second half. I mean, what do you have to lose? That's the best guy you have on offense. Why not target him? He's proven and he's shown that he can win those toss-ups. He can win, and he's a physical guy, and he's probably the best offensive player right now on this team. So take a shot. Who cares? It's a 50-50 ball. The cornerbacks for Kansas City Chiefs are not that great. I mean, they're decent, but they're not great. He probably could win against them, and he did on one of the plays. And we're like, oh, yes, we're finally going to have a Denzel Mims game. Hell no, that didn't happen because Adam Gase is the head coach. So it's just the second half adjustments suck like always. And, again, it was just I didn't expect anything better than what we saw yesterday. But, again, it was just an awful loss.
Yeah, I mean, everything that happened was expected, and the only motivation that was bringing me to watch this game was to see the rookies play and see Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims in his second game, and LaMichael Pirine was supposed to be getting high-volume carries, which is not what happened. Frank Gore had more carries than LaMichael Pirine. Denzel Mims had 2 targets and 2 receptions, and he had the same amount of receiving yards already, 42 receiving yards and 2 receptions. So I'm like, wow, Denzel Mims is destined to have a breakout game, like you just mentioned, Ali. And, of course, he was just targeted one more time after that, which is absolutely inexcusable. And for 37-year-old Frank Gore to get more carries than rookie running back LaMichael Pirine is just doesn't make sense. So, Jack, I know that this New York Jets football team drives you absolutely insane, as all of us. So what were your first reactions to this game? Do you have any takeaways, and what really drove you the most crazy?
All right, let's start with the positive takeaway. We got 2 dogs on defense. We got Quinnen Williams and we got Bless Austin that are down to disrupt plays and hit people. Love to see it. But that's pretty much the only 2 positives I could think of, bro. I mean, going back to the second half, the first half of the Buffalo game, we thought, okay, Dowell Loggins, what do you got for us, man? New energy, new guy calling the plays. Like, the offense looked decent for the first time all year. And then, the second half of that game and all of yesterday's game it proves once again that this coaching staff is just completely incompetent. They don't even deserve to be coaching college. It's really crazy, man. I mean, you look at, a couple 3rd and 12, 2nd and 10, where it's the same bubble screen to Berrios. It's like, what are you guys doing, man? If me and Richie can sit on the couch and predict the plays that it's going to be called, what are opposing defenses and D coordinators doing? It's easy for them. They see Frank Gore lined up single back, one running back in the backfield. Okay, Frank Gore up the gut. It's easy for teams to defend our offense because it's so predictable, because the play calling is so atrocious. And, the lack of talent as well just means that Sam has no chance back there, man. No chance. It's tough, man. Very tough game.
It is tough. And to get back into that whole Denzel Mims situation, Braxton Berrios had 11 targets for 8 receptions, and he had less yards than Denzel Mims. Think of that. I mean, we saw that beautiful play that all Jets fans have been waiting for since April when we drafted Denzel, when Sam Darnold throws an absolute moonball dime, drops it into the bucket. Denzel goes up there, makes a contested catch on the sideline. Right in that moment, I was like, wow, this is it. We've been waiting for this moment all year. And this is the chance that we can start targeting Denzel, get him highly involved in the offense. And then after that, he just gets canceled out. And, we can't put everything on Gase and Loggins. Maybe Darnold wasn't targeting him because he'd missed him being open, but we don't know. But it's absolutely super frustrating. But another positive I could mention is Mekhi Becton did have another great day. He canceled out Frank Clark. We saw Baldy's breakdown. He goes out there and just annihilates people. He is the only guy in this offensive line that is a keeper. The rest of the O-line needs to go. The interior O-line is a big problem. Chris Jones was just feeding on the interior offensive line, and it was a huge issue throughout the entire game. Mekhi Becton held his ground, and, Joe Douglas's first 2 draft picks as a New York Jets general manager, looks like he hit on him. I mean, obviously, we haven't seen a lot of Denzel Mims because he's not getting targets, but if you, look at him out there and just see his sheer size and his potential, you can see Denzel Mims has a lot of potential to be a great NFL wide receiver. So moving on from yesterday's game, after that, we saw that Avery Williamson has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for those guys that do not understand the compensation that was involved, the New York Jets basically gave up Avery Williamson and a 7th-round pick in 2022 for a 5th-round pick in 2022. So essentially, we just swapped picks in the 2022 draft. So what Joe Douglas is trying to do, and what will he be doing following up to the trade deadline, which is pretty much today and tomorrow, is he will try to squeeze out any ounce of value he can with anybody that's on expiring contracts who does not see on the future. We saw that with Steve McClendon, Jordan Willis, and now Avery Williamson. This is what good GMs do. If you see someone that's going to be walking in free agency and you don't have any plans on re-signing him, you trade him for anything you can get. And 2022 draft is going to be really interesting because we are going to have so many draft capital. And some people be like, well, 5th-round picks are not valuable. We don't need that. But listen, 5th-round picks is a trade asset to move up in the draft, to move back in the draft. And for those guys that don't know, the Baltimore Ravens traded for Calais Campbell for a 5th-round pick. So 5th-round picks, they are valuable. So what was your first reaction of that trade? And do you think Joe Douglas has the right mindset going into this trade deadline, Jack?
My first reaction to the trade was, all right, the tank is really on now. It's obviously been on, but the tank is in full force. And, I got to say that I think that Joe Douglas is doing it totally in the correct way, man. Guys that are going to be free agents next year, let's see what we can get for them. A 5th round for Avery Williamson. Cool, man. We weren't going to sign him next year. I'm kind of seeing Joe Douglas's vision a little bit, and I'm trying my best to accept it and to roll with it. But, it's hard 0-8, watching your only decent players walk out of the building. We obviously know that that's hard. But, I think he's doing the fire sale the right way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Ali, what's your take on the Avery Williamson trade?
I mean, it's a dead season. There's nothing going to come positive about this season anymore. There's literally nothing positive you can look at this team. This goes a long way, especially for a GM that's trying to fix up an entire football organization, to get rid of the guys that have value and are good and go to contenders. He went from an 0-8 team to an undefeated team right now. I mean, he completely switched, and he has a chance of winning a ring this year. That's literally what it is. And, agents like that, players like that. And Joe Douglas has all the world of respect around the league. Everyone loves him. And that's what the Jets needed. They needed someone who's respected around the league. And that's why he's getting draft picks. He's looking for the future because this is a dead season. And it doesn't upset me a lot. It upsets a lot of people. But they're like, oh, we're losing Avery Williamson. Oh, we're losing our best player. There's nothing to look forward to this season. He's not a game changer. He missed a couple tackles yesterday too. Travis Kelce was drilling him. So, it just doesn't make sense to keep him around when you can get a draft pick out of him because, again, it doesn't change the outcome of the game. He's not going to come back next year. He's a free agent. His contract expiring. It doesn't make sense. So a lot of these guys, I feel like Jordan Jenkins could be on the market. I can see Marcus May possibly but I don't think there's going to be enough value for him. But there's guys that the Jets are going to try to move in the next day and a half until tomorrow's deadline. So Douglas wants the picks, man. He has 20 draft picks in the next 2 years. So, I mean, that's crazy to see, but he's building for the future, and people should respect that and open their eyes.
I couldn't agree more. I think Joe Douglas should literally trade anybody on this team not named Quinnen Williams or not named anybody that he drafted, because those are the guys that should be untouchables. And the other guys that have any ounce of value, like I always mention, get as much draft capital as possible, because like we say, this is a dark season. We have 0 wins, and this is a loss. We're not going to go make the playoffs. We're not going to go do what we did last year. We started 1-7, and then we finished the year 7-9. That's not happening. There's no reason to try to win football games this season. So let's get as much draft capital. And a lot of people are a little, why can't it be the 2021 draft? Because we want to see the draft happen this year. We got to be patient. Joe Douglas is not building this team to win in 2021. He's building this team to win for the next decade, and that's going to take time and patience. And a lot of Jets fans don't want to hear that because we've been suffering for our whole lives. But listen, Joe Douglas came into this mess, and he inherited a mess with John Idzik and Mike McCagnon, drafting terrible people in the first and the late rounds, never even focused on the offensive line. And we could see what Joe Douglas's vision is. His first draft pick of his life as a New York Jets general manager is an absolute menace in Mekhi Becton. And we are happy to have our left tackle that's a stud. So Joe Douglas is going to acquire as much draft pack capital as possible, whether it's in the late rounds and the early rounds. He's getting rid of any 7th round pick possible, because I feel like he is in the 7th round, there's not a lot of value. But what Joe Douglas is going to try to do is sit back and wait for those undrafted rookies, because look what he did with Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff is an undrafted rookie. He looks like he could potentially have a bright future for this Jets football team. Lamar Jackson, he had some playing time. He's an undrafted guy. Javelin Guidry, another guy, Lawrence Cager. So Joe Douglas definitely loves those undrafted rookie free agents. So there's going to be a lot of moves that happens in this year's draft, next year's draft, and the year after that, including a lot of trades. Listen, if Joe Douglas sees somebody on the board in this year's draft that he really wants, he could package these late round picks he's getting for these players and move up. The picks that we got for Steve McClendon, Jordan Willis, Avery Williamson. What Joe Douglas is doing, he's building assets, ammunition, in order to have flexibility to move up to get his guy, or even move back to get more capital. So we are just so lucky to have a guy that understands value and understands long-term thinking, because we've been suffering from previous GMs that have way too much short-term thinking and putting so much money into guys and trading up in the draft and losing draft capital. So it's refreshing to see. But, you know, right now it's hard to see the vision since it's such a dark time in Jets world. Definitely the worst time to be a Jets fan. Every single time we watch this team play, we suffer. It is absolutely atrocious. And the only thing that I'm really nervous about is Adam Gase not being fired, because I just feel like all the excuses we're getting from Adam Gase in the press conferences is what he's saying to the Johnsons. And who knows if the Johnsons are hearing him and saying, you know what, you're right, Gase. You have nothing to work with, all these injuries. We got to get you the right people. We'll give you another shot. And that's every single Jets fan's nightmare. So the only thing we can hope is that we get that first overall pick and Adam Gase is gone after the season. So for either of you guys to answer this question, what gives you any type of motivation to watch the remaining 8 games of the season?
I guess I'll take it. Highway 77, baby. It's my boy. I love seeing him play every week. I don't know. I guess, I'd like to see some more out of Pirine, some more out of Mims. Let's see what they can do. But, the question is are they going to get the ball in their hands? We don't know. So I guess Becton is what I'm really pulling for these days.
I mean, one thing I've said it on Twitter, I've said it on Instagram, I've said it on Instagram Live. I'm actually rooting for the 0-16. I think every Jets fan should root for the 0-16 for one reason. That's going to wake up this organization to make changes. That's what you're going to realize, that you're the worst football team to ever exist. You're the worst team to put on the field in an NFL game. And that's the facts, because the stats say that. And I want this team to go 0-16 because that's when maybe the head coach changes. Maybe the ownership's like, oh, we suck, so maybe we change. Maybe we give it up. That's the thing. I think that's just what they need. They need a wake-up call. They need a real wake-up call. They always have a bad season and then win meaningless games in the end, and that's why their record looks okay. And then they're like, this team is fine. They'll do better next year. That always happens with this team. They go 0-5 in the first 5 games, and then they win the last like 4 or 5 games to make it a decentable like 7-win season, and they're like, oh, we'll have a better year next year. That's what the Jets don't need this year. They need absolute crap, and I don't think this team is going to win more than maybe one game. They're not going to win more than one game. So you just got to take it and be like, 0-16, wake the hell up, because that's what this Jets team needs.
Yeah, I mean, we're going up against we're going up to Patriots on Monday Night Football, which could be a winnable game because the Patriots don't look good. And knowing Bill Belichick and knowing that this is a lost season for the Patriots, you never know. What if he gives up the game on purpose to let the Jets win because he doesn't want to see the Jets land Trevor Lawrence, and he's just playing chess out there and playing checkers or whatever you want to call it, because who knows? But, before we end off this podcast, let's get into the topic that is probably the most important topic of the New York Jets, which is the quarterback position. So obviously, if we land that first overall pick, it's going to be the topic of discussion. Are we going to that Trevor Lawrence route, which is probably the most popular route, or are we going to stick with Sam Darnold? So my take on it is, in the beginning of the season, I always said, I'm like, okay, I need to let Sam Darnold play out the rest of the year, see what his stats look like, see how he dealt with this situation, see how he's dealing with adversity. Is he making steps? And, you can make the excuses that the O-line's not helping him out and there's no one and the receivers getting open and the coaching sucks. But at the same time, as a third-year quarterback, he can't be making rookie mistakes. He doesn't seem like he's making that next step, and he doesn't have that tool to elevate guys around him. And another thing about Sam that I'm noticing is he looks like defeated. He looks like he lost his confidence. And that is a big, big problem for an NFL quarterback. If you don't have confidence, you don't see the field right, you're not going to succeed in the NFL. And a big reason what I thought that was going to make Sam Darnold make that next step was understanding the offense, reading the defenses, calling out blitzes, and just understanding the playbook in his subconscious mind. And that seems to not be the case. So I'm just curious, if we land that first overall pick, what should the Jets do? Should they 100% draft Trevor Lawrence, or should they consider trading back and building around Sam with a new coach and a new environment around him? I'll start off with you, Jack.
I've always been on Team Sam from the beginning. I'm sure most of you guys listening have heard at one point or another that me and Richie met Sam, and it was a great day, and we'll never forget it. And I've always just, from the second Sam was drafted, it was the first time in my life where I was really, truly excited and really, really, truly felt like we had our guy. So it really sucks to be having this conversation, but I really do feel like Sam's time in New York is done, man. I do. I think I see him out there playing, and his confidence is completely shattered. He hasn't had a touchdown pass in a couple weeks. He's running for his life on every play. Even when they get a nice bootleg going and, the entire defensive line bid on it, nobody can get open downfield for the kid. There's just nothing going on this team for him. I think if he stays here for more time, we'll totally ruin his career. I think at this point, there's still time to salvage his career if he goes to, let's say, the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Indianapolis Colts or even the New Orleans Saints potentially. Teams like that with aging quarterbacks that have a good foundation and are good organizations. I think he could go there right now and thrive, So I don't think Sam's going to work for us anymore, but I still think Sam has a bright future in the league. And yeah, I guess that means that if we get the first pick that we're going to have to take Trevor Lawrence, man. I guess that's where I stand now because I can't keep watching Sam just play inconsistent football every week, man. It's tough.
I thought his season was over yesterday. After he took that hit when he was holding his shoulder, I think he was done. I thought he was done, and that's the last time we're ever going to see him in his New York Jet. And it's concerning, man. I think they need to reevaluate him. I don't think he's 100% either. I don't think his shoulder's 100% since that Thursday night game. And I think they're rushing him back. I think they're doing a lot of stuff wrong. And I think he's not ready to play. I don't think he's ready to play. And I think the best thing to do is to keep him on the bench and let him heal so his trade value is better. He's getting traded, man. I don't think the Jets are not going to get, whoever coach comes in, I think they're going to want a new quarterback. They're going to want to bring their own quarterback that they want. And we either going to have the first pick or the second pick. So it's either going to be one of those, and Field is playing out of his mind as well. So what I'm looking at is his time here is done. And I think if you have the first pick, it's a no-brainer to get Trevor Lawrence. Or if you do not draft Trevor Lawrence, people are going to hate you forever because you're just going to be like, what if he's absolutely insane and you messed up on him? And, you can't take that big of a risk as an organization. So especially they're potentially an 0-16 season. So, yeah, I think Sam Darnold is done, man. It's sad, but I think he's not 100%. I think they need to just call him out for now and just put him on the bench and have Flacco finish this season.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I really don't think Sam Darnold's 100% healthy out there either. They're rushing him back. He keeps saying in all his press conferences is like, yeah, my shoulder feels fine. And you know that he's pushing through the pain because he is a baller. He wants to go out there and play football, rightfully so. And it's unfortunate, that he's dealing with this injury and that the Jets coaching staff is forcing him to go out there and play football. And maybe they should shut him down and let him heal before he goes on the field, because that's just not good for Sam Darnold's health. It's his throwing shoulder we're talking about. It's not like a leg injury or finger injury. It's his throwing shoulder. So you bring up a really good point. But just to finish off this podcast, let's just talk about what this Jets football team would look like if they do land the first overall pick and we do go the Trevor Lawrence route, because that is an exciting time. If you do think about it realistically, and we do land the first pick and say we trade Sam Darnold, I know a lot of people think Sam Darnold's value is really low, but I genuinely think that there would be a team that could give up a potential first round, maybe second round pick for Sam, because the quarterback position is extremely valuable and Sam's still young. And I think that there's going to be a lot of teams that are interested in Sam Darnold. I saw a lot of tweets saying that. Say we trade Sam for a pick and we get Trevor Lawrence. We have a late first round pick with the Seahawks pick. We're going to have like a really early second round pick, and we're going to have 2 third round picks. Those are a lot of draft picks for Joe Douglas to play with. And I think that he did phenomenal in his first draft as a New York Jets general manager. So if we can get Lawrence in a rookie contract and we can build around him with a new coaching staff and have all this cap flexibility, and Trevor Lawrence's rookie season, maybe he plays good and he shows up like, I'm a rookie, and the Jets, they're not the best team. And then his second year, you never know. I mean, it sucks to think about the future and have all this faith and hope, because we feel like we do this every year and it just turns around into an absolute nightmare. So I don't want to do that, but I do want to mention that if the Jets do land the first pick and we get Lawrence, this organization is going to look completely different, because there is people comparing Trevor Lawrence to John Elway and the greatest quarterback prospect to come out since him. And listen, Trevor Lawrence, out of all the prospects that come out in this past decade, is better. And that's scary to think about. All these quarterbacks that are thriving, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, all these guys coming out of college, Trevor Lawrence blows them away. So that's really exciting. And at the same time, me personally, I'm not hopping on the Trevor Lawrence train in terms of getting my hopes up to land him and watching his highlights and falling in love with him, because I know that if I do that, they're not going to get him somehow and I'm going to be disappointed. So I'm letting the time run its course. And if we get him, I'll be hyped. But if we don't, I wouldn't be as disappointed. So what's your take on that? If we do get Lawrence, are you guys like, what's your take, Ali?
I'd be happy, man. I'll be pretty psyched, because look, the Jets I think the Jets are going to be very active in free agency. They have a chance of, if somehow the Bears let Allen Robinson walk, that'd be a big, big target for a rookie a quarterback who's supposed to be amazing. And then you have Denzel Mims over there. And, you have picks. You probably can draft another wideout. You can draft another O-line. I mean, there's so much potential in the next 2 years for the Jets team, because the Jets have never built through the draft. And that's the problem with this team, that They never built through the draft. And they have a chance to actually hit on draft picks now. I mean, so far, so good for them in this year's draft, but there's a lot to go for that. Injuries can happen. We still haven't seen Bryce Hall on the field, and I think he could be potentially good. And especially when he gets ready, I think you should put him right on the field, because we need to see what he's got. And this is a season to check the rookies out and see if they can ball out and see how they can play, because the defense needs as much help as they possibly can. So, again, I think getting Trevor Lawrence and, possibly getting some wide receivers, Allen Robinson, getting the O-line, I think it's a completely different team. A new head coach. I mean, this team, I hate when people bring up that, oh, this is the New York Jets, man. Who wants to play for them? It's going to be a completely different team next year, man. I mean, everyone's going to be gone that you hate. And it's just going to be a completely different team, and they have a chance to rebuild and rejoice the Jets fan base in the next couple of years. So hopefully it's going to be exciting for sure. But again, you got to show it on the field. But again, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time.
How about you, Jack?
Wait, that was a super long answer. What was the original question?
So just like, how would you feel if the Jets do land that first pick and we do get a generational quarterback in Lawrence? Like, do
Oh,
you
I
think
would.
that it's going to be a good time?
Oh, it's going to be super exciting, man. Like that's the best time for any Jets fan is always the off season. So, it's going to be super exciting. I don't know if we're going to take a train into Manhattan to go meet him this time because he might be gone in 3 years. But yeah, man, it'll be super exciting. Like you said, he's like the best prospect to come out of college in a long, long time. So being in a position to get a player like that is a very exciting thing, man. That's, you can't deny it. So it's exciting, but it's sad at the same time that we even have to have this discussion, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said previously, I am not going to invest all my time and energy if we do land Lawrence as like, you're our savior, you're our guy. I learned from my mistakes. I'm going to look at Trevor Lawrence and I'm going to root for you, but I'm going to like not buy your jersey yet. And I want you to prove to me that you are our guy. I'm going to give you 2 years to prove that you are the guy that everyone's
Yeah.
hyping you up to be.
No
I'll be rooting
jerseys.
for him. I'm not saying that I'm going to be anti-Trevor Lawrence. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying what I did with Sam Darnold was the day we drafted him, I'm like, this is our guy. Bought his jersey, was obsessed with his highlights, was telling all my friends that Sam Darnold's better than anybody. I got lost. I was just a biased mess. And I'm not going to make that mistake. If we get Lawrence, I'll be obviously hyping him up on my channel. I'm going to be watching his tape. I'm going to be bringing you guys all the best content about him. But I'm not going to be buying his jersey and thinking he's our savior until I see him win Rookie of the Year, light up the league, and that really does it. So that does it for this episode of Loyal Media Sports Podcast. I appreciate Jack joining in on this week's episode.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Of course. Expect Jack to be on here way more. And if you guys are interested, check out Ali over on Instagram and Twitter at Loyal NY Jet Fans, and check out Jack's music page on Instagram. He creates awesome music. And also, Jack is new to Jets Twitter, so go give him a follow at Jack_NY Jets. And I'll be creating a weekly live stream on my Jets Media YouTube channel where me, Jack, and Ali will hop on there and go live for a whole hour. And you guys can go in there to the live chat, ask us some questions, talk about Jets football. So stay tuned for that. And we always appreciate you guys tuning into Loyal Media Sports Podcast, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening to us in your car. Please make sure you subscribe and show the podcast some love and give us some reviews. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
See you guys.
Peace out.